All right, so here we go. Welcome, everybody. I am welcoming on the podcast today, I'm welcoming Heidi Coker, a dear friend of mine. We met, oh my gosh, so many years ago. I was just looking at that picture in a pole workshop in Chicago, 2015, 16, 14.
I thought it was 14. Yeah.
You might be right, because I think I opened the studio in 13 and then we met in 14. So yeah, and since then we have just become great friends, and Heidi has been to the studio and met my family, and we've just kind of like ventured and journeyed through life together. I'm really actually honored for you to be here today and actually to share your story, because I think it's I know that it's just really powerful. And, as I have rebranded this year and just talked about redesigning life in general, I know that you've gone through that experience. So I just really I can't wait for you to share that to everybody that's listening today. I'm pretty pumped about it, actually. So if you don't mind, will you tell us maybe a little bit about you and just a little bit of your story that gets us to get to know you just a little bit more?
Wow. So funny.
I know, it's so much. Heavy question.
Excuse me. It's interesting. You were saying, talking about redesigning and rebranding and everything, and that has happened so many times in my life. And I actually feel like it's happening again right now.
Yeah.
So originally I went back to sort of like the big chunk, like my relationship, and I will introduce myself in a second, but I just want to finish this thought. I went back to like this 20-year span of my life where I was in this really difficult and also beautiful relationship. And then I realized, well, wait a minute, the last 2 years, I've been starting over again, as I think so many of us have through the pandemic, but I'm really redesigning everything as we speak. And so it's the realization of it. I don't think it ever ends, right? Until last breath, we are constantly creating who we are and redesigning our life to fit who we are becoming in the process of this whole journey. So,
I love that.
Yeah. So, my name's Heidi, and I've been pole dancing for 12 years. And, gosh, my story, I don't even know where to start. Was a competitive gymnast, international elite for 15 years, and achieved all the amazing things, and then it just wasn't quite right. So I left that, became a sign language interpreter, got married. Things were goodish. Was trying to become more empowered in who I was, and I got into pole dancing. And during this time was in a relationship that was really beautiful and then also challenging, as was my husband. My late ex-husband was had a drug addiction that was pretty severe. And yeah, became a internationally renowned pole dancer, which was amazing. And behind the scenes, my marriage was falling apart and my life was falling apart because I was trying to manage both lives, and I lost myself completely in the process of trying to quote unquote save him. I don't know where to go from there. I'm not sure what
Well,
yeah.
I mean, a couple things that you said that I really love and resonate with is one reason why I think your story is so powerful is because exactly what you said. I think sometimes we think, oh, if we're going to redesign our lives, like something has to happen, and usually that's a bad thing, and then we reboot and then we move forward, and then from there on out, there we go, it's redesigned and now we're living. And I think something that we often miss as women is it's not just to pay attention one time. It's just constantly being aware and constantly diving into that redesign, because you might redesign from where you are and even just a couple months later go, you know what, I'm actually going to redesign and take a left instead of going straight, and now I'm actually going to go right, and I thought I was going to go left again, but I'm going right. And I think same as you, is like, I'm just like, we're just constantly evolving, constantly coming out of and growing and entering into not even who we are, because there's not this like end thing. It's not like this is who we are and then we travel and oh, we got there. That's how it goes, you know? So that's what I love about being your friend. And that's what I love about your story is it's like every time we talk, there's just, it's depth. There's depth to who you are, the journey that you travel, and ways that you are just, you pay attention and that you're aware. So I
Well,
love that.
it's exciting. I actually was talking to a client this morning who is she's struggling with choice, right? Like these big moves and these big decisions that we all face, whether it's a relationship or even pole dancing or life and career and family and all these things. And what I came to realize is that through everything I've learned, I came to the understanding there's no wrong choice.
Mm,
I might choose something and be like, ooh, wasn't what I thought it was going to be, but I
mhm.
learned XYZ. And now I'm going to make a different choice.
Yeah.
And I almost want to say better, but better is just, that's almost not necessarily the case, right? We just keep making choices to figure out who we are as we develop and change. And it's a constant evolution. It's constant.
Yeah.
And we learning and learning and learning. So taking away some of the fear out of our choices in this process of redesigning who we are
Yeah.
and just as experience and then making different choices as we go.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is like, just make a choice because there's not a wrong one. So don't sit and not make one. Just make one, go with it, and then arrive, travel, journey, and then make another one, and then make another one, and then make another one. Yeah, I love that.
And I think about one of the hardest things, and I'm going to go back to my relationship with my late ex-husband because I could look at it of 20 years of turmoil and stress. But when I look back, I'm so grateful because that was he in that situation was my greatest teacher. And it
Mhm,
helped to rediscover myself. So I lost who I was at one point
mhm.
to find myself again. And now that I find that it took me 20 years, right? You might think like, oh my gosh, it's such a long time. But once I had that experience, now I can make choices. I wouldn't say easier necessarily, but I'm not as afraid to take them because I've learned how to trust myself and I've learned more about myself so I can make those decisions and choices a little bit with more ease or at least with more curiosity.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Ooh, I was just moving to a song called Bring on the Rain today,
mm,
thinking about the art of you and things that we were going to do and things I was going to talk about. And yeah, it was like the lyrics of that song. I was just sitting in that as I was moving by myself in the studio today and thinking, you know what? Ugh, sometimes I just get so caught up in the rain that I'm like wet and I'm cold and I'm irritated and I need it to go away because I have things I need to get done or I have reshaping to do or whatever, that sometimes I just forget to let it rain on me. And I
yeah,
forget to be thankful of that. And the lyrics were, bring on the rain because I'm thirsty anyways, and tomorrow's another day.
I
So
love that.
I sat in those lyrics, and as I was moving, I was like, I just began to smile and think, I got to be thankful for the rain. What am I doing? I was like complaining that it was here, and I am thirsty. I'm thirsty anyways because the rain is my teacher, and I can always learn from those situations instead of
Yeah,
looking at it as like, oh, I'm frustrated or this happened or I'm mad about this or at that person or whatever, but actually inviting that into my life of like, no, it's okay. It's good. It's rain. I'm thirsty anyway. And tomorrow's another day. It's already over. It was like 3 days ago. Why am I still thinking about it?
exactly. Yeah.
My gosh. So yeah. So tell us a little bit more about, okay, he's your late ex-husband. So tell us a little bit maybe about, or the audience, like just kind of like where you were when, or kind of how that relationship ended
Sure.
where you were in that process and journey when you got the news? Because I know that was big. It was heavy. You weren't in town. I'd love
Uh,
for you to share that piece if you don't mind.
Sure, sure. So the last couple of years of my relationship were really difficult because I was watching the person that I loved really struggle on the inside, and
Mhm.
I was well on the inside, right? Completely different experience, but we're both having these internal battles. And every time I was away from him and I'd sit on an airplane getting ready to like go on tour, and two thoughts would come. One, I would sit in my seat and I'd be like, what the heck am I doing? Like, I would sit there stunned, like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Because
And
you're leaving him?
no, like, why am I in this unhealthy
Oh,
relationship?
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for the clarification. Yeah, like, why am I in this unhealthy relationship? Like, I know this isn't right for me anymore. I know, but what is it? So what I discovered about myself is that I knew I needed to leave. I knew that's what needed to happen,
Mhm.
but there was something that was unresolved in me, and I needed to find out what that was, so that when I made the choice of leaving, I was doing it from a place of now I'm ready. And
Yeah.
that wasn't, "Well, I'll be ready when," and kind of pushing it aside to avoid. I was like, no, leave now. I will have some doubt. I will have
Uh,
unresolved issues within me. So I need to figure that out. That was first.
so healthy.
Oh, that was hard though. It took me a while to get to that point.
Mhm.
And then the second thing was, I'm going to another country and I'm leaving this person. Fortunately, I don't know what's going to happen when I leave. He was suicidal. There was substance abuse that was pretty severe. I couldn't, there were many, many things I couldn't trust. So I had this panic, almost separation anxiety of what's going to happen when I come back, or what am I coming back to? And
Right.
also, okay, I need to figure this out because this needs to change.
Yeah.
I needed to change.
Yeah.
So yeah, so well, we ended up divorcing. I found what it is in myself that I needed to heal. I found that nugget of truth for me, and healed it. And well, healed it to a certain level. Ironically, this is a completely different story, but I had more work to do many years later that I was, we think we're done with a piece of work, but there's
Yeah.
always a little
It's just
underneath.
a layer. It's just a layer, and there's a lot of other
Yeah,
layers.
it was
Yeah.
like a deep layer, but yeah, and was able to tell him how much I loved him and wanted to be part of his journey, just not as his wife.
Mhm.
And so we remained best friends, and we had a very, I mean, divorce is hard, even if you know it's right, divorce is hard.
Yeah.
But we had a beautiful separation, and remained just most intimate, beautiful friends. But he was still struggling, and a year and a half. So we divorced in June of 2016, and then November of 2017, I was on tour in New Zealand and was on the phone with him. A couple hours later, some weird things were happening. His girlfriend at the time called me, went to bed, and woke up, and he had died in his sleep.
Mhm.
So I lost him through addiction. I lost him in the divorce. And then I lost him to this world. And so it was like three losses back to back.
Yeah.
Mm. And probably the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced in my life.
Yeah.
The just incredibly raw, and the most connected I've ever been to everything. It was very profound, life changing.
I almost feel like that was like such a piece of not, I mean, you were already on this journey anyways, but that was a lot of depth to your journey. And I remember the picture that you took when you were overseas, because people were kind of like, are you coming home? Are you going to be traveling home? And you were like, you know what? He's here, like he's here with me. And I remember that picture, like you just had your hand over your heart, and it was just like the
Mhm.
world of this beautiful scene. And I just remember looking at it thinking, oh, yeah, it just, he was there in some interesting way. So that's a lot of grief. That's a lot of grief, a lot of steps of grief.
Yep.
And
Yep.
grief is so hard. I think there's, whether they're, and even if they can still be in your life, and there can still be, because you let go of something,
Yeah.
there might not be grief for them, but there's grief for you of letting go of that.
So many things to let go of. I mean,
Yeah.
I wasn't even aware of. Um, but yeah, and I will say that it was like I couldn't hold myself together any longer. I
Mhm.
women to this world, and we like, we pull ourselves up when we go do the thing because that's what we do as women, and we're strong, and that's wonderful. And also, we need to understand that there's a time when we need to just take all of that down and let life pour through us. And that's what I had to do. I didn't have anything else that I could hold up per se. And
Mhm.
yeah, the grief was so intense. And I keep saying beautiful, but like, to be that open to life, like how much life can you hold?
Yeah.
And I was just in it, and it was amazing. But it was layers, right? There was a lot of anger, frustration, there was sadness. So grief, so many stages, but allowing myself to feel everything and not think that it was wrong or bad, or that I was doing it inappropriately. I allowed myself to be vulnerable and cry with people that I just met for the first time, because I
Mhm.
was on tour and then I'd perform the next day. And so just allowing life to live through me and to not be afraid to share that with others was
Mhm.
also sort of redesigning how I connect to the world
Mhm.
as I connect to myself, which I think is one of the key parts, is who are we in this process, and how do we connect to others as we're redefining ourselves. Mhm.
Yeah. What do you think got you to be vulnerable and to be open like that? Because I know, we've shared a lot of our journey with each other too. And vulnerability is scary. Vulnerability is a place, I think, for a lot of people, that they go like this. And it's really, it can be very comfortable to live life, with an arm's length of everywhere that you are, every person that comes toward you. What do you think it was, or maybe it's not like a thing, but how were you able to not live life, push things away, be bitter, like have shame that lived inside of you? How were you able to be vulnerable? Like, what could you share for those of us that are like, I'm too scared, I can't do it? Because, like you said, the pain, it can be, it is so unbearable. It's so hard. And the easier thing to do
Mm.
is to not feel it, really. It's to
Yeah.
just like, yeah, I'm going to bottle you up. I'll put you in a jar, and then I'm going to set you right there. And I know that you're there, and I know I feel that, but I don't want to go there because, like, I don't have time. I just don't want to feel that. It's a really hard place to be. And some people, like you said, just accepting it, feeling it, letting things go, holding into this. What do you think that was for you?
I don't think that's an easy answer.
I know. I
For a
know.
simple I'm afraid to say, that, but that's the truth. I think part of it is, well, everybody's different, right? So what works for me may or may not work for another person. So I can only speak from my experience. But
Yeah.
I actually had a lot of fear growing up, and I had a lot of discomfort in being seen. I was a gymnast, and I was being judged, and we're competing on the team. Even though we were a team, there was competition
Mhm.
within each other on the team. And I had a tremendous struggle in believing in myself.
Yeah.
So honestly, that journey started at a very young age, and it's chipping away at that wall, chipping away at feeling comfortable with who we are and accepting ourselves. So I think it was a lifelong process of, how do I learn how to talk to myself? 'Cause I was seeing a hypnotherapist when I was in high school because my self-talk as a gymnast was so bad, and I was so wounded, if you will, that I needed help. So I was seeing a sports psychologist and a hypnotherapist. I was doing all this as a teen, right?
Yeah, that's intense as a
And
teenager.
but that's how negative and how detrimental the thoughts were. So so this has been a lifelong process. And then I guess as I reflect, I think the biggest thing is the more comfortable you are with yourself, I think the more willing we can be to share that with others in the right context. I don't think everybody, everyone doesn't get a key to your apartment, right?
Yeah,
Well, you don't even want to tell them where you live, right? There are
yeah,
degrees of how much we share with people based
yeah,
off the of. So it's not like I'm just an open book to everybody for everything, but I'm comfortable with myself. And so I'm happy to share things if I feel comfortable. I'm happy to be vulnerable and, risk looking silly or weird or odd, or risk trusting people or situations because I trust myself, because
mm,
I think I think the vulnerability piece comes from, okay, I'm comfortable in my own skin. Let me push my boundaries a little bit and see how it feels. I'm okay if I don't look perfect in this situation. I'm okay if I make a mess. So I
yeah,
think reading ourselves internally,
yeah,
um, and then seeing where we can push our edges and be open to experience life when it feels safe or safe enough to experience something. Mhm.
yeah. Do you think there was a like a time that you can remember that was pretty big for you that was like, okay, I really need to take certain steps to find out who I am. Like, was that early on? I mean, did those steps just keep traveling with you because you were just used to taking steps as a teenager, and then you just kept making choices and figuring out, you know what I mean? Like you just kind of kept going, or was there this moment where you sat and thought to yourself, okay, enough is enough. I have really got to figure this out, and I've got to go a little bit deeper. I've got to love myself. I've got to figure out what is missing here, what is going on. You know what I mean? Was there like this moment, or did it all kind of just accumulate together?
I think when we're in the middle of something, it's really hard to see what's happening sometimes because we're stuck,
Yeah.
right? So at the time, I don't know necessarily that I had full awareness, especially at the beginning. But I
Yeah.
can think of one of the big times for me was I was at the number one school in the country. I had a free ride for gymnastics. I mean, we had our own jet. We were treated like royalty. I have like everything I could ever want in terms of like, you know, schooling and all these amazing things. But I knew, and everyone was so excited and so proud and all these things. But on the inside, I was slowly dying and I knew this wasn't the right fit. And I knew it so much in my heart that I was like, I have to leave this because this is not who I am. I'm changing myself. And to face my father and say, I know this makes you so proud and you gave up your life for me, but this is killing me. And so I need to leave. So facing the disappointment of, you know, my family or these other people. So I guess like in those moments where I like summoned the courage because I knew deep inside that it wasn't right for me. And that happened when I was 19. So I think there are key markers of when
Yeah.
I had this deep sense of like the marriage, right? It might have taken me 20 years, but I knew
Mhm. Mm,
this is not right. And
yeah.
so, hey, how do I figure out my timing to do my work and then release? And so it's been an ongoing process, but I do think that we build up to these kind of peak experiences, if you will, in our life. And then we make them and it's like, okay, but the work still goes. It's just, we climb a mountain and then we see there's more mountains. So we go down
Yes.
that, we
Yeah.
go for more
Yeah.
mountains. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
So
It's like the courage to climb the mountain. So here's your courage to climb the mountain. And then you get to the mountain and now you're like, oh, there's 50 other mountains. Which other mountain shall I climb? And then it's making that choice. And then courage and choice and courage. I love that you mentioned that word courage, because I think that is so, I think it's so huge. It's like just having the courage to know that you are so enough to take this journey, and it matters, it does matter. And while we think like, well, I can just keep going down this path, or it's really like diving deep, being aware, and just having that courage to go, no, this is not it. It's going to be a different way. And maybe it's this path is what I thought it was always going to be. It's okay to let that go, and not having the shame or the bitterness or the anger, but even being okay, like you said, with feeling that, like it's okay. All
Yeah.
these things that I'm feeling, they're valid. I'm going to go through it, because that's going to open up another view of where it can take me.
Yeah. I think one of the key things is even going back one more step to realize that there is a mountain and maybe you're already on it. I think
Yeah.
sometimes, so in the thick of things, we don't even realize that we're already on the journey.
Like
So,
look around, like look,
and
look,
so
look, look, look. Yeah.
that's right. So everything starts with awareness. Like
Yeah.
everything, you can't change. You can't, we can't even have the courage if we don't understand and see where we are, right? We have to have the awareness of what's going on. It's like, oh, and not only is it courage, I also think it's curiosity. I think
Yeah.
like, what's going on in me? What's this feeling about? What's
Yeah.
this? Um, Something's not right. What is that? Or oh,
Yeah.
this part doesn't like that. What's going on? So having curiosity about what's going on within us, and then the courage, as you said, to make the change, choose something. Yeah.
Yeah. So we kind of touched on this already, but what are steps that you kind of like live by to continue diving deeper, to journey, to be aware, to be curious, that you might want to share with others and with us today?
Um, it's okay.
So many.
Yeah, so many. I think one of the biggest things is learning how to listen to ourselves to
Hmm.
know what we need.
Hmm.
So, I could say, take time to meditate, or take time to eat right, or take time to journal, or, you know, there's lots of steps, right? There's action we can take, but I think it all boils down to, do I know how to listen to myself? Do I know how to get still enough to hear what it is I do need?
Yeah.
So taking time to quiet yourself, whether that is, um, meditation, or even just a couple deep breaths every day. Um, Once I know what I need, then I can be like, wow, I need to get some things out. I want to journal.
Yeah.
Wow, I just need to be with myself for a minute. I'm going to go for a walk outside because nature is really soothing for me.
Hmm.
I need to clear my mind, but I don't want to watch TV. So I'm going to sit down and read a book for a little bit.
Hmm.
Body is tired, but I know I'll feel good if I move, and it wants to move, but I don't want to do crazy things.
Mm.
So I'm going to get some exercise. I'm going to dance. So I think it starts with being able to listen to yourself.
Yeah.
And then actions would be meditation, pull, movement or expression. Like I
Yeah.
said, get walks, journaling. Like those are practices that I have. Those are steps that I take.
Mhm.
Um, Once I have enough space. That's another thing, is creating space for yourself. You and I, when we first started this, we're talking about how there's so much going on, right? And frantic was one of the words that,
Yeah.
and I relearning that when I have a little bit of space in my life, I
Mhm.
see things so much more differently. I can make more decisions. I make decisions with more ease.
Yeah.
Uh, so creating space for you to breathe, and then be able to see what you really need to move forward. So those are kind of the practices that I think about, or the steps that I would take in my daily life. And I say that because it might change every day.
Yeah.
Try to listen to what it is I need. Yeah, and every day is not always a win-win. I do sometimes push too hard still, even to this day, right?
Yeah.
But
But then
if
at
it's
least you know, because you're aware. And then you get to the end of the day and you go, okay, I
Yep.
pushed too hard and I should have created space at this time, or I needed recovery this time, or my body is too tired. So now instead of being so hard on ourselves for that, like you said, it's a learning experience. Okay, now I know that when my schedule looks like that, or when my body is doing these things, that is now too much. I might have been
Yep.
able to do that 4 years ago, or, I feel like that's what I run into is I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
like I just put it on my schedule because that's what I was doing before. And it's like, well, I'm in a different space before. So I have to remember, okay, I tried it, it didn't work, I learned, and now I'll be able to do something different moving forward.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. So I'm excited to to take all of what we're talking about, a lot of what we're talking about today. And we have an event coming up at the end of July. And we've been talking about this for a long time. And
I
I
know.
feel like journeyed a lot in life together of just all the things. And as much as we have not seen each other in person, somehow it feels like we have. I don't know.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for voice memos, right? Because we've done
Yeah.
so much on it. Yeah. So we have an event coming up. Heidi and I are hosting the Art of You. It is the last weekend in July. It will be held at my home studio at Flirt Fitness Studio in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And we are going to take a deep dive into a lot of stuff that we talked about today. Just journeying with yourself, connection, inner work. We'll have an amazing cacao ceremony at the beginning to kind of open things up. And I'm really excited about that, to just be able to open our hearts individually and as a group to be able to let go, but also to be able to receive for the weekend. The weekend will include a gift for you as a spectator or as a client coming through. And we will be doing a catered lunch on Saturday with some breakout sessions to just kind of dive deeper into that inner work, to explore the divine feminine and create connection with each other. And we'll also do some group work. We'll be having a potluck together on Saturday night, and then an amazing, unique ceremony, celebration, I should say, to end with us on Sunday. Is there anything else that you want to talk about with the event, Heidi?
Well, what I'm so excited about um, is that these practices that you and I are going to share, this is what I was doing when I was going through my crisis during the pandemic, how I redesigned my life. Like, this is what I'm so passionate about teaching right now. So
Mhm.
this is where I get to share that with everyone. And then you will bring, what you've been going through. And we get to bring all of this juicy exploration of the self, not only through movement, but in community. And yeah, it's just expressing what's inside of us. And so
Because I
excited.
think people ask a lot. I think people, I know, I mean, and I know you get this too. And I asked you here on the podcast, it's like people say, how do you do what you do? And it's really, that has been such a question for me this year. And I keep thinking, I don't know. So I've started to pay attention, and things
Yeah.
that I just do ritually, right? Or I just take action on things. I don't realize that people want to learn more about that. So same with me as like, all right, these last 2 years, man, have I been in the trenches. And I'm so excited to share. It's, these different things, ways, paying attention, curiosity, all of that. Of no, I'm not out of the trenches, because I feel like there's always this like, oh, you think you're walking and then boom, you fell down. But
Yep.
just how to just be able to, like you said, stay true to who you are. And a lot of that was inner work for both of us. So I am also super excited to share that with everybody. I can't wait.
I know, me too. I'm so excited.
And just so you guys know, it was like I had this brewing in my mind and in my heart. Secretly, like Heidi had it brewing in her mind and her heart. And I don't even remember how it came about. I think I just said something to you like, I was thinking about doing this. Like, is that anything that you'd be interested in? And you're like, dude, I've been thinking about the
Yeah.
same thing. And then bam, we created it. I
Yeah.
think, I don't know, was it different?
No, I totally agree. And what's so funny is that you said that you started writing things down of like, what have you been doing? I did the exact same thing. I started last week. I'm like, what am I doing? What did I do? Like, how did I get myself out of this the stake, because I think we all touched on that during the pandemic, right? Or wherever you are. But like, I was like, oh no, 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 something needs to change. And it's like, what did I do?
Yeah.
And so I look at my life, I'm like, oh, there's so much there. And so it's like writing it down and being able to share that with people. And you know what I love too? They're such small things.
Yes.
It's the accumulation over time that all of a sudden you build new habits, you build this new structure within yourself.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, but they're easy, right? They don't
Yeah.
cost much,
Yeah.
but we just got to do it.
Yeah. Because
So
you write it down and then you look back and you go, seriously, I wasn't doing that tiny little thing. Like
right.
that tiny little thing made such a difference over the last this amount of time. And you don't even realize you weren't doing it before because it's now become a habit. I have those things that I wrote down that it's like, how was I not doing this before? I mean, what? And yeah, they are. They're just like all these small things, but put together, they become this big, powerful thing of energy that lifts us and guides us and creates more and allows us to let go and allows us to open
Mhm.
up and be vulnerable and accept and redesign. So, yeah. So, what we're saying is you should be there. If you are listening, what we are saying is you should be here. I can't wait. I'm so excited. Uh, well, thanks. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being you. And thanks for just touching so many lives and all the lives that you do, including mine. You're so dear to me. I love you, as you know. And until next time, you guys, we'll sign off. And thank you, Heidi. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.